saga, so glorious, mysterious and divine. A life so loving, caring and human. A message so eternal, ancient yet modern. Come one, come all, let us listen and learn the import of every word. See and imbibe a way of life. Live and relive every golden moment.
Billions of years ago, God created the universe. As a climax, God finally created man in His own image. When man first appeared, he was quite primitive. However, with God's grace, man quickly evolved. Particularly in the last 100 years or so, man has made astounding and spectacular progress, especially in science and technology. Modern man may be very smart, but he also tends to forget why God has created him, being focused almost all the time on the external world. As a result, man goes through life often immersed in seeking transient pleasure and sense gratification. But misery always follows in the wake of pleasure. And man, who was full of joy earlier, now becomes overwhelmed by pain, sorrow and distress. Life thus oscillates like a pendulum between pleasure and pain. All this happens when man forgets God. When man loses sight of God, he feels lost and sometimes even sinks into depression. To help man, the ever-compassionate God regularly sends saints and holy men. He once even sent his son, Jesus. However, at times it becomes necessary for God Himself to come down. The Supreme Lord has incarnated on many occasions, sometimes in human form. When the Lord incarnates, He is called an avatar. A very long time ago, God came down as Rama. In the Rama avatar, God in human form demonstrated how man can and must adhere to Satya and Dharma in daily life. Much later, about 5,000 years ago, the Lord came down as Sri Krishna. And as the crowning glory of this avatar, taught man via the Bhagavad Gita how to become one with God. The next appearance of the Lord in human form was about 150 years ago as the Baba of Shirdi.
Sri Sachidananda Sadguru Sainath Maharaj ki jai. Geuni pancharate karu bhavanchi arate.
In Shirdi, Baba mysteriously appeared, seemingly from nowhere. Like a mendicant, Baba begged for food. But Baba also made it abundantly clear that he had divine powers, as he did once when he lit lamps with water instead of oil. Baba's ways were strange, and he spent alternate nights in a mosque and a temple. No one knew why. However, his movement from one to the other became a ritual procession. Many thought that Baba was a Hindu, while others took him to be a Muslim. Baba kept everyone guessing, and few understood who he really was. Even so, people of all faiths realized that Shirdi Baba was the personification of supreme knowledge, and they came to him for guidance. Before giving up his body, Shirdi Baba announced that he would incarnate again 8 years later. Sure enough, the Lord did come again exactly as he had foretold in Shirdi, choosing to be born this time in the state of Andhra Pradesh, in Anantapur district, in Puttaparthi village, in the Raju family, as the grandson of Kondamaraju and as the son of Pedda Venkamaraju and Ishwaramma. 9 months prior to the incarnation, one day, a blue ball of light flew down from the sky and mysteriously entered Ishwaramma, the blessed lady chosen to be the Divine Mother. And then, on that historic day, 23rd of November 1926, the Lord made his appearance as young Satyanarayana Raju, even as musical instruments in the house began mysteriously to make sounds in celebration of the advent of the Divine. Love and compassion are two unmistakable signs of divinity, both of which were seen in plenty in young Satya. Although his family was poor, Satya did not hesitate to share what little he had with the needy. Already his life was becoming his message. God in human form acts pretty much the way humans do. Thus, young Sathya walked every day a long distance to school, as did the other children of his village. However, Sathya was different too, constantly inspiring everyone to think of God by leading young boys in bhajans, for example. In between, Sathya gave fleeting but amazing flashes of his divine nature. One day, as Sathya and a few of his friends went around the Hanuman temple, Hanuman suddenly appeared, prostrated before young Sathya, and then vanished. Sathya's friends were wonderstruck, but soon doubts came. Was he or was he not God? Years quickly rolled by, and Sathya went to Kamalapuram with his elder brother Seshamaraju to study there. In Kamalapuram, young Sathya had to do many difficult household chores, but he never complained. Quietly, he was teaching the lesson of Kshama, or forbearance. After Kamalapuram, it was Uravakonda next. There, on 20th of October 1940, Sathya quit school, informing his stunned brother and sister-in-law that he had work to do, that his devotees were calling him, and that from now on he would be serving humanity. So saying, Sathya just left. From his brother's residence, Sathya went to a nearby garden, revealed himself as the avatar of the age, and gave his first message to mankind. The little boy Sathya of Puttaparthi, who went out to study, had now become a part of history. In his place there was Sri Sathya Sai Baba, God in human form, come to serve and uplift mankind. The year was 1940. Having discarded the schoolboy disguise, the avatar returned to his native village Puttaparthi to make it his headquarters, as well as the focal point of his global mission. In the beginning, Sathya Sai Baba, who now also came to be known as Swami, used a tin shed as his ashram, a shed fondly referred to by old-timers as the Old Mandir or Pata Mandiram. In this phase, Bhagavan Baba performed many remarkable leelas, mostly in the evening, when he took devotees to the sands of the Chitravati river.
Chitravati tira Chitrupa Baba, Chitravati tira Chitrupa Baba, Chintalellanu dirchi Chantamamu chepu Napali pennidani Mariyandu dalachini
incredible were the Leelas that the Lord performed during the Patha Mandiram days. Not many had the good fortune of seeing them, but among the blessed few who did, some have recorded for posterity what they saw. One such is Mrs. Vijaya Kumari, who at the time she witnessed these incredible Leelas of God was a young girl. Those Leelas made a deep impression on her. And even now, 60 years later, she is able to relive every single one of those precious moments. One day in 1946, we were all seated around Swami in the Patha Mandiram. There was a huge pile of tulsi leaves and Swami asked us to make garlands with them. In fact, he himself started making a garland. That was the first time we saw him make a garland, and the speed with which he worked was amazing. All of a sudden Swami said, "Listen, Ganga Mata is coming. Get up and let us all go and see her." Although Swami got up and moved forward, we did not believe what he said. We just covered our mouths and started laughing. Where is Ganga and where is Puttaparthi? Thinking thus, we continued to sit and didn't budge. But when Swami started to go quickly towards the main gate, we immediately followed. Swami went out of the main gate and stood there. Stretching his hands wide on either side, he said, "Nobody should cross this limit. All of you must stand behind." We did as told, wondering, "Swami, where is the Ganga you were talking about?" Just then Swami said in an excited voice, "Look there, she's coming." Suddenly we heard the roar of massive waves and saw a huge torrent of water rushing towards us with great speed and tremendous force. Scared to death, we feared that we would all be drowned by this deluge. I, along with other children, then caught hold of Swami tightly. Swami told us to remain silent and watch Mother Ganga. As the water approached us, Swami stretched forth both his hands in a gesture of benediction. And most miraculously, the surging water became calm where we were. But beyond that area, the water was still roaring and turbulent. Addressing the waves, Swami said, "Ganga, we are very happy that you have come here all the way from Kailash." Turning to us, he said, "Mother Ganga has come all the way from Kailash and you are not even doing puja? Run and get kumkum, turmeric, flowers and some coconuts and perform puja." We rushed inside, brought with us all the required articles and did the puja as instructed. Swami himself broke the coconuts and offering them to the river before us said, "Ganga Mata, we are so happy that you could come here." He then blessed her and asked her to return. Even as he was instructing her, she vanished completely. She was gone as mysteriously as she came. A moment earlier, there was a torrent of water, but now, most amazingly, there was absolutely no sign of even wetness anywhere. We then prayed to Swami to go back inside the mandir. However, Swami continued to stand there and told us to look at his feet. When we did, we found a garland of jasmine flowers around them. The surprising part was that each flower was as big as a ball. The fragrance was superb and the garland was very well made. Swami asked us to pick up the garland and hand it over to him, telling us that these flowers were from Kailash, which was why they were so big. Swami then removed the flowers one by one and distributed them. Our family also got a flower, and we kept it safely until the flower gradually dried up. Here is Mrs. Vijay Kumari's description of another truly awe-inspiring Leela that she witnessed during the Pata Mandiram days. One day in 1947, we went with Swami to the Chitravati river. All of a sudden, he disappeared from our midst. We then heard his voice which said, "I am here on the hill, and I am going to now show you all Surya Darshan, the vision of God as Sun." We began to wonder. It is past 6 in the evening and the sun has already set. And now Swami is saying he would show us the sun. That was when we began to laugh. Just then we began to see a pink light behind Swami. Quickly pink turned into red and we began to feel very hot. The heat made us sweat profusely and was unbearable. At the same time, the scene we saw was beautiful, indeed beyond description. Finding the heat unbearable, we loudly complained, "Swami, it is too hot." He replied, "Is that so?" And then slowly the heat began to decrease when Swami suddenly announced, "I am now going to show you the moon." Even as he uttered those words, the sky behind him gradually began to turn silvery white, and the air started to cool rapidly. Soon we began to feel very cold and started shivering. Our teeth began to chatter and we screamed, "Swami, it is too cold!" Taking pity on us, Swami made the chill disappear, after which he said, "I am now going to show all of you the third eye. Watch carefully and don't look here and there." As we stood there watching his full form, we suddenly saw only his face, huge in size, filling the entire sky. Even as we were watching all this with awe and wonder, an orifice appeared in between his eyebrows, from which flew giant sparks and huge flames. Instead of being lost in this extraordinary spectacle of divine glory, we now became very worried and anxious as we could see only Swami's face. We began to wonder, what has happened to Swami's body? Have the flames harmed Swami? That was the thought uppermost in our minds. Meanwhile, many people fell down and some even fainted, but I did not realize it then. Suddenly, in a flash, the entire spectacle came to an abrupt end. The sky was back to normal as if nothing had ever happened, while Swami was with us on the Chitravati sands. He then asked why some people had fallen down. We said that we did not know the reason. Swami then created sacred ash or vibhuti and applied it to everyone's forehead. Having done that, he said, "Come on, let us return to the mandir." We started walking back, but most of us were quite unsteady and wobbling. Back in the mandir, with much love, Swami said, "Today I have granted you the blessing of Trinetra Darshan, the vision of the third eye, for which you all have been pining in many previous births. What I have shown you is not even 1,000th of the full glory, and what little I showed made many of you to fall down, unable to bear the power of that sight. that was when some kind of normalcy started returning amongst us. Soon, the mystical Leela phase ended as it had earlier when the Lord came as Krishna. The Sathya Sai avatar had come with a heavy divine agenda, and there were many important things to do. In 1950, Swami moved out of the old tin shed into a new mandir. This was the abode of universal peace, and appropriately came to be known as Prashanti Nilayam. From the modest building built in 1950, the mandir as we see it today grew in stages. Krishna must have his Vrindavan, must he not? Thus it is that Swami established a second ashram in Whitefield near Bangalore. Before launching his missions in full swing, there were a few important things that Bhagavan Baba did first. To start with, he institutionalized darshan, making it a regular affair. Puttaparthi in those days had few facilities, but such was the power of divine attraction that people managed to come somehow or the other. Darshan gave the masses a kind of bliss they had never experienced before, and started to draw more and more to him. When one goes to a temple, or for that matter to a holy man to have darshan, one has to file past the idol or the saint as the case may be. The same is not the case with Swami. He comes to where the devotees are and moves amongst them. Darshan became an occasion not merely to see the Lord at close quarters, but also to touch him and even speak a few words to him. highly insecure age, devotees of Baba learnt that through darshan they could get comfort, inner peace and a feeling of divine protection. In the olden days, a lucky few were able to persuade Baba to write the sacred word Om on a slate, initiating their child on the long journey towards God. All devotees no doubt pray to Swami, but when they come for darshan, they can even manage to give him a letter. Every day Baba receives hundreds of letters containing everything, from prayers for help to expressions of gratitude for the grace conferred. Swami also uses the occasion of darshan to bless a few with vibhuti or sacred ash that he materializes on the spot. Clearly, it is only the merit earned in many previous lives that makes one eligible to receive vibhuti in this manner. To make the experience of darshan complete, Swami started holding bhajan sessions, helping devotees to redeem themselves by singing the praise of the Lord in His very presence. Since those days, darshan as well as bhajan sessions in Baba's presence have become a regular feature, no matter where Baba is. Mrs. Karunamba of Mysore, who came to Baba in the 40s when she was a small girl, recalls that in those days, many people would prefer to sit under the shady trees outside the mandir, where it was much cooler than inside where the bhajans were sung. Baba would then personally go outside and almost compel the people sitting under the trees to go inside. Let us hear what Swami said to young Karunamba then.
మిమ్మల్నంతా నేను ఒక్కసారి చూస్తే మీ కర్మాలంతా మండిపోతుందమ్మాయి. మీ కర్మాలు ఎవరు మండిస్తారమ్మాయి? దానికోసం నేను
One day he said to me most gently, "My dear, you do not understand why I am compelling you to be inside. If I look at you just once during bhajans, all your past karma or sins would be burnt away. Who else can do that for you? If you sit here under the tree and I am there in the hall, how can I see you? Now do you understand why I am asking you all to be inside?" How amazingly compassionate is Swami. The high point of the daily darshan came in the form of the divine interview. Every day, Swami selected from the congregation a few devotees who were asked to assemble in his chamber. That is the blessing everyone prays for, but only a fortunate few receive. Inside the interview room, the very first thing that Swami does is to materialize Vibhuti, which he then distributes to the ladies present. Follows then the nectar of divine intimacy at its very best. None can predict what will happen in the interview room. But of this one may be certain. The experience of the interview fills the devotees present with great bliss and becomes etched forever in their memories.
My life is the message, if that you connect, you see the gentleman, you be gentleman, you work, love is my...
This is an interview with a difference. Gathered here is a marriage party, and Baba himself is going to perform the marriage. To start with, Swami explains in detail the spiritual significance of marriage. And now Bhagavan Baba materializes the Mangal Sutra, or the sacred necklace that the groom would put around the bride's neck as a symbol of her marital status.
This is headstone. Headstone means Sumangali. This is mark. Height. Let's say this is all right.
The couple get ready with garlands, which they exchange as a part of the ceremony. Swami now fills the cup of bliss by posing for pictures with the newlyweds. It was through the interview that people from the far corners of the world could get an idea of what the love of God in human form really means. Few realize that darshan is not merely seeing Baba in physical form, or talking to him, or even being called for an interview. There are other divinely subtle aspects that almost everyone was totally unaware of, until Frank Baranowski of America called attention to them. Baranowski is a parapsychologist and scientist. affiliated to many colleges in Arizona State in USA, who specializes in studying auras. Every living being has an aura, apparently connected with the life force within it. The aura is often described as an external manifestation of bioenergy. A special technique called Kirlian photography has been used to photograph the aura of plants and other such living beings. Frank Baranowski not only studied human auras using various instruments, but also had the gift of being able to see them with his naked eye. He spent many years studying the aura of holy men in particular, and when he heard about Swami, he decided he must make a trip to India to study the aura of Baba. When Baranowski came to India, Swami was in Vrindavan, and so there he went. He had his first glimpse of Swami one Sunday morning when devotees had, after going round on Nagara Sankirtan, assembled before the old bungalow while Swami gave darshan from the balcony. Baranowski was totally unprepared for what he saw. This is what he has to say about his experience then and subsequently.
I came to India from America, a scientist, a researcher, studying the human aura. I've heard so much about Sathya Sai Baba from many of my intellectual colleagues, presidents of universities, physicians, psychiatrists, people who have come and touched in and have never been the same since. I have heard so much about what he is able to do, his abilities to heal, his abilities to be able to contact people telepathically, to help them. Now, I saw him on a Sunday morning, very early. He was on a balcony, giving blessings to many of his devotees singing below. And the aura that projected from Swami was beyond belief. It was incredible to describe. Now, the white was 5 to 6 to 7 times the size of any normal man, which would show the energy. But beyond that pattern, the blue, that intense spiritual blue, was it was limitless. Beyond that were gold and silver bands, and the aura that projected from Swami was not that of any human individual that I've ever seen. In fact, it transcended far beyond the building, the boundaries of where he was standing. I watched Sai Baba for over a week as he walked among the people, morning and the evening, and I watched this aura. Now, the aura, most of the time when he was with people, though the bands of blue were there, signifying the spirituality, the bands of pink were far beyond any human imagination. Pink, to a researcher, shows a limitless, selfless love. And I watched as he walked up to people and sometimes touched them. And the amazing thing is you could watch the negativity in their aura suddenly come to life with positive feelings as he touched them. And as he walked away, part of his aura, part of his energy had mingled with theirs. His energy seems to be, it's endless. He never seems to tire. I watched him as he walked to a little girl in a wheelchair and tickled her. I was astounded at the aura of love that was well around them. Now, it seems that the aura that emanates from Swami definitely shows his love for people. I've met, as I say, a lot of these holy men, but none of them have made themselves as available as he does for his people. I'm risking my reputation as I make this statement, but 2 days ago, I looked into the eyes of Sai Baba, and they have a glow inside them that I've not seen in anyone else's. It was clear to me beyond any shadow of a doubt that I have looked into the face of divinity. In my estimation, Sai Baba is exactly what he appears to be, what he wants you to be, and what he tells you to be. Love. And that's what he is. Just love.
Festivals have always formed an important part of life in India. And it is no wonder that Baba started celebrating festivals in Prashanti Nilayam right from the early days. All festivals were duly celebrated, though the emphasis was always on the inner significance of the festival rather than on merrymaking. Among the festivals, it was Baba's birthday, Shivaratri, Guru Purnima and Dasara that really became the big events. Birthday was something very special, since it gave devotees a chance to offer their respects to the Lord even while He was amidst them. As for Shivaratri, it became an incomparable experience, the like of which has not been seen anywhere in India then and now. In the old days, Shivaratri in Prashanti Nilayam would always begin with a procession. The climax of the morning's proceedings would be the Vibhuti Abhishekam. This Abhishekam was performed to a silver idol of Shirdi Baba and was preceded by some rituals. After this, the Vibhuti Abhishekam would start. The Vibhuti Abhishekam was a powerful reminder of the amazing divine powers that Baba always commands but uses only rarely. Here we see Bhagavan Baba pulling his hand out from the inverted pot and Vibhuti has stopped flowing. He now inserts the other hand and twirls, and lo and behold, Vibhuti starts flowing again. No doubt skeptics can give contrived explanations, but just look. Is it possible to conceal so much vibhuti inside one small pot? Why did Swami perform the Vibhuti Abhishekam? Ordinary mortals perform Abhishekam to idols by way of propitiating the divine. But does the divine have to propitiate anyone? Clearly not. Then why the Abhishekam? Swami performed the Abhishekam partly to draw attention to his divine powers and partly for reminding devotees of the significance of Vibhuti. Vibhuti is sacred ash. Ash is produced when things are burnt. But ash itself cannot be burnt. It is thus a kind of end point. In spirituality, a human being reaches an end point when all desires are burnt away. What remains then is purity. Vibhuti is thus the symbol of the ultimate purity that all humans must strive to achieve. Later, Swami personally distributed the Vibhuti to the devotees who had come to attend the Shivaratri festival. Shivaratri is always characterized by an all-night vigil, with the faithful singing the praise of the Lord. In Prashanti Nilayam, not only did devotees sing in the physical presence of the Lord, but what is more important, they witnessed Baba revealing himself as the Supreme Creator via Lingodbhavam, during which a lingam emanated from him.
Lingodbhavakara Lingeshwara, Lingodbhavakara Lingeshwara, Atmalingodbhavakara Lingeshwara, Lingodbhavakara Lingeshwara, Satishwara ma pahe Prabhu, Satishwara ma pahe Prabhu.
When the Shivaratri crowd started becoming unmanageable, both the Vibhuti Abhishekam and the Lingodbhavam were discontinued. However, a few years ago, Swami revived the divine and extraordinary manifestation of the lingam, the symbol of creation. These days, the lingam is of pure gold, shining with incredible luster. Can anyone have so much gold inside one's body? Where from does all that gold come? Swami says that the gold forms in him from the 5 elements present in subtle form. Initially, the gold exists inside as liquid or molten gold. For gold to exist in the liquid state, it must be at very high temperature. At such temperatures, the stomach of normal mortals would be completely burnt. But not so in the case of the avatar. Just as a mother has to undergo birth pangs, Swami undergoes severe physical discomfort in order to manifest the lingam, so that man may realize that behind creation there is a creator who is supreme. It is this Supreme One alone who can grant permanent bliss, and man must strive to achieve purity because that is the only gateway to God and bliss. No wonder Shivaratri at Puttaparthi is so different from elsewhere, which is why so many thousands flock there unfailingly year after year, right to this day. Dasara, that occurs in the autumn season around September-October, is another festival that brings the faithful in their thousands to Prashanti Nilayam. Dasara is also the occasion when devotees get a chance to experience the grandeur of the Vedas. Many mistakenly believe that the Vedas are exclusively associated with Hindu rituals. It is true that Hindu priests chant Vedic hymns during all the rituals they perform. At the same time, we must remember that the Vedas focus heavily on the ultimate truth, besides making clear how one may overcome spiritual ignorance. In this sense, the Vedas are universal. And it is for that reason that Swami makes it a point to draw attention to the Vedas, and not because they are Indian in origin. The Vedas focus on a mystical, eternal something that is beyond this world, beyond this universe, beyond space and time itself, and is changeless. It is that something beyond words, and even the mind and the Vedic seers were in quest of, and with good reason too. Indeed, across the ages, several seekers have been engaged in this very quest, though by different means. Einstein was one of them, and he gives expression to this beautifully. Explaining why he pursued science, Einstein once said, quote, "A knowledge of the existence of something we cannot penetrate, which only in their most primitive forms are accessible to our minds, it is this knowledge and emotion that constitute true religiosity. In this sense, I am a deeply religious man." End of quote. Einstein tried to catch a glimpse of cosmic infinity through science, while the seekers of the Vedic age sought that very same eternity via the path of devotion and spiritual inquiry. The Vedas have two major parts, one connected with chants and rituals, and the other dealing with ultimate reality. It turns out that even rituals have deep meanings. Yajna is one of the important Vedic rituals about which Bhagavan Baba has this to say, quote, "The sages used to perform yajnas for gaining mastery over the senses. The real nature and meaning of yajna is the overcoming of all our bad tendencies, throwing them into the fire of sacrifice." What is sacrifice? What is that one must give up? Is it the transient wealth that one has? Sacrifice means giving up one's desires, greed, and extreme miserliness. Unless you sacrifice desire, anger, greed, and so on, you cannot attain divinity. Unquote. That is the real point. Yajnas are performed for achieving inner purity through sacrifice. In order to call attention to the importance of yajna, Swami started to have yajnas performed regularly in Prashanti Nilayam, with the specific purpose of promoting universal peace and an intense yearning for God. The rituals that form a part of the yajna have many aspects, one of which is the worship of the sun as God Almighty. The worship of the sun might appear like an old pagan ritual bordering on the superstitious. That, in fact, is the current attitude of the atheistic followers of science. If the sun did not exist, we too would not. Scientists know this, but are not bothered about giving thanks to the Lord of the universe for creating the sun, because most of them do not believe in God. However, it was different with the ancients. When they worshipped the sun, it was not so much the physical sun they were thinking of, but the Lord who created the sun for our benefit. In fact, in Konark in Orissa, there is a temple dedicated entirely to the sun god. yajnas performed in Prashanti Nilayam last 7 days, the climax being the Purnahuti function that marks the end. After the completion of the yajna, Swami personally blesses all those present by sprinkling the holy water. The Vedic seed planted then has now grown into a huge tree. Thus, these days, Swami's students chant the Vedas all the time.
Sahasrashirasha Purushaha Sahasraksha Sahasrapat Sabomin Vishwato Vridvat Atyatishtat Dashangulam Purusha evedagum sarvam yadbhutam yaccha bhavyam utamritatvasyeşanaha.
Even little children chant with as much skill as scholars.
Na karmana na prajaya danena tyage naike amritatvamanasohom parena nakam vihitam guhaya vibrachate tajjatayo vishanti vedanta vidyana sunischitartha.
Others chant the Vedas too, since Swami has made everyone realize that the Vedas are universal in character, rising far above traditional religion.
Prano jayate manasarvendriyani cha kamvayu jyotira prithvi vishwasya dharini Narayanat Brahma jayate Narayanat Rudro jayate Narayanat Indro jayate.
As for the Gayatri, an important component of the Vedas, thanks to Swami, its universality is now widely recognized, and one need not be surprised if one hears it being chanted in far-off places. Swami spent most of his time in Prashanti Nilayam. This was in keeping with a promise he once made to Mother Ishwaramma. However, Bhagavan Baba also made short trips to other places, both near and far. There was spiritual hunger everywhere, and the Lord did not hesitate to go out in order to appease that hunger. wherever he went, Swami drew big crowds. Bhagavan also spoke everywhere, in villages, in small towns and in big cities. The place and time might have varied, but the essence of the message remained the same. Man is divine and must realize that fact sooner the better. And the royal path to making that discovery is the path of selfless love. The people listening to Baba's discourses might not have always understood all that he said. But that was beside the point, because for the crowds, seeing him was enough. That is the beauty of God appearing as man. Even the very sight of him is such an uplifting experience. It is no surprise then that many have had their entire lives changed totally by a mere glance from him.
Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru Ji bolo. बोलो वाहे गुरु वाहे गुरु जी बोलो
वाहे गुरु जी बोलो
सत्यनाम 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 जी बोलो
सत्यनाम जी
बोलो सत्यनाम 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 जी बोलो
सत्यनाम जी बोलो
नित्य नित्य जपिए तेरे नाम जी बोलो
नित्य नित्य जपिए तेरे नाम जी
बोलो नित्य नित्य जपिए तेरे नाम जी बोलो
नित्य नित्य जपिए तेरे नाम जी बोलो
नित्य नित्य जपिए तेरे नाम जी बोलो
नित्य नित्य जपिए तेरे नाम जी बोलो
राम 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 जी बोलो
राम जी बोलो
राम 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 जी बोलो
राम जी बोलो
नित्य नित्य जपिए तेरे नाम 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 जी बोलो
कृष्ण 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 जी बोलो
कृष्ण 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 जी
बोलो कृष्ण 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 जी बोलो सत्यनाम 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 जी बोलो
सत्यनाम जी
बोलो सत्यनाम 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 जी बोलो
सत्यनाम जी बोलो
गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय
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 गोविंद हरि हरि गोविंद 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 जय जय
सत्यनाम सत्यनाम जी बोलो
सत्यनाम जी बोलो
सत्यनाम 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 जी बोलो
सत्यनाम जी बोलो
वाहे गुरु जी बोलो
वाहे गुरु जी बोलो
वाहे गुरु
जी बोलो
जी बोलो
जी बोलो
सत्यनाम 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 जी बोलो
सत्यनाम जी बोलो
दत्त 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 दत्तात्रेय जी बोलो दत्त दत्त बोल हरि 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 जी बोलो
हरि 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 जी
बोलो हर 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 जी बोलो
हर 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 जी बोलो
नित्य नित्य जपिए सत्यनाम जी बोलो
नित्य जपिए नाम जी
बोलो नित्य नित्य जपिए सत्यनाम जी बोलो वाहे गुरु जी बोलो बोलो वाहे गुरु जी बोलो सत्यनाम 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 जी बोलो बोलो सत्यनाम 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 जी बोलो जपिए सत्य नाम की बोलो
नित्य नित्य जपिए तेरे नाम की
बोलो नित्य नित्य जपिए सत्य नाम की बोलो
नित्य नित्य जपिए तेरे नाम की बोलो
वाहे गुरु वाहे गुरु वाहे गुरु
वाहे गुरु वाहे गुरु वाहे गुरु
बोलो वाहे गुरु वाहे गुरु वाहे गुरु
वाहे गुरु वाहे गुरु वाहे गुरु
गोविंद जय जय गोपाल जय जय राधा रमण हरि गोविंद जय जय.
In late June 1968, Swami paid a brief visit to Africa. Swami flew from Bombay to Nairobi in Kenya by an Air India 707 jet. Hundreds of devotees packed the airport in Nairobi, waiting to catch a glimpse of Swami on his arrival. Swami's biographer Kasturi records that as the doors of the aircraft opened, sounds of bhajans could be heard from the distance. On alighting from the aircraft, Swami was whisked away to the spot just outside the airport where bhajan singers were eagerly awaiting the Lord. Devotees tend to describe Baba's visit to Africa as a foreign tour, but Swami says that he merely went to the house of a devotee, Dr. Patel. Only this particular devotee's house happened to be in Kampala, the capital of Uganda. It was about noon local time when Swami landed in Nairobi. From there, he straightaway proceeded by road to Kampala, about 600 kilometers away. When the divine party reached Dr. Patel's house, it was 1:30 in the morning. Yet there were people gathered there waiting for Swami. Next morning, Swami was up as usual, fresh as a rose. For Bhagavan Baba, darshan was the most important engagement, and he obliged as often as he could. However, the host felt that he would be failing in his duty if he did not take Swami for sightseeing. Thus it was that Baba visited the Baha'i temple in Kampala. Temples and buildings one can see everywhere, but what about the wildlife that Africa is famous for? The host Dr. Patel made sure that Swami did not miss the African safari. Swami flew to where the animals roamed, free from interference from man. And there in the wilderness of Africa, Swami played the role of a tourist to perfection, even peering occasionally through binoculars. Swami was also taken to a place called the Hippo Pool, where these huge animals took the weight off their feet by immersing themselves in water. The hippos had not studied physics, but knew how to use the Archimedes principle to advantage long before the Greek philosopher discovered it. The highlight of the African safari was a 25-kilometer boat ride up the famous Nile River. Having satisfied his host, Swami now returned to the task of showering ananda or bliss on devotees through darshan. So happy was Swami in Africa that in an unusual gesture, he celebrated Guru Purnima in Kampala instead of in Prashanti Nilayam, as is the usual custom. Finally, on 14th July, Swami flew out of Uganda from the Entebbe airport to Nairobi. In Nairobi, Baba transferred to an Air India Boeing and travelled to Bombay via Aden. Thus ended Swami's only trip across the oceans. In spirituality, there is a term for delusion, Maya. It is this delusion that makes the real appear like the unreal and the unreal appear like the real. Where the avatar is concerned, Maya sometimes totally confuses devotees, and it is common for them to blame God for Maya. That is wrong, because God is never responsible for Maya. It is human ignorance that is responsible for the delusion. God is always divine, even when He dons a human form and acts human. Baba thus moves about and does all the things that humans normally do. Watching all this, people tend to forget quickly that Baba is distinctly different from all of us. He is ever the complete embodiment of the divine. To us, Swami may give the impression of being just a human, but He is always omnipresent, omnipotent and omniscient. The human mask of the avatar often deludes people, making them forget who he really is. This is what Maya is all about.
శ్రీ సాయి హరే నామ స్మరణ తలచిన చాలు
was that made devotees in the olden days plead with Bhagavan to take them on pilgrimage to many holy places like Badrinath, for example, as we see him here. Why does one go to a pilgrim shrine? To have the darshan of the Lord. Here was the Lord in physical form, and the devotees who constantly hailed Swami as the Lord were now with him on a pilgrimage. Strange sometimes are the ways of the Lord. Swami no doubt acts human most of the time, but on occasions the avatar has consciously allowed certain events to occur that gave glimpses of the divine. The famous paralysis episode is one example. It all began a few days before Guru Purnima in the year 1963, on Saturday 29th June to be precise. On that day, Swami was walking towards his room. Swami then suddenly spoke of a reeling sensation and immediately fell on the floor. Kasturi, who was with him, could barely restrain the fall. Even as Swami fell, the left fist became clenched, the left leg stiffened, and the toes became taut. It looked like Swami was having a stroke. Gloom quickly spread all round Prashanti Nilayam. Swami was seemingly unconscious all the time and showed only faint gleams of awareness, as for example, when he pushed away a doctor who tried to give an injection. Swami's body was apparently severely exhausted. Days passed and finally came Saturday, the day of Guru Purnima. Baba had indicated earlier that he would give darshan on that day. Swami was carefully brought down from upstairs, and seeing his condition, everyone wept. Baba was then placed on the silver chair, propped up by pillows. Swami then gestured for water, which was brought in a silver tumbler and held to his lips. He sipped a few drops, dipped his right hand into the tumbler, and sprinkled a little water on the limp left hand placed on the pillow over his chest. He sprinkled some water over the left leg too. After that he rose. The next thing that the stunned devotees in the hall saw was that the one who had been suffering a paralysis attack had now become perfectly normal, all in an instant. Without showing any trace of the paralytic attack, Bhagavan Baba was now delivering his traditional Guru Purnima divine discourse, and he spoke for over an hour. Some years later, in December 1970, a similar incident occurred when Swami was visiting Goa at the invitation of the Lieutenant Governor Nakul Sen, an ardent devotee. Baba and his party reached Goa on 7th December around 9 p.m. That night, Swami was having acute pain but did not give any indication of it. He remained silent, pretending that all was well with him. However, next morning Baba's pain was evident, and Governor Nakul Sen called in doctors from the medical college in Goa, in addition to some leading physicians in the city. The doctors understood that there was a severe problem in the abdomen, but were not clear about the exact nature of the illness. Pain, nausea and fever kept Swami in bed all day. Meanwhile, over 20,000 people had gathered in the ground opposite the governor's mansion, waiting for Baba's darshan. The gathering was assured that Swami would address Goa devotees in a few days in the very same place. On 9th December, the doctors decided to put tubes down the nose for taking gas out of the stomach, relieving thereby the hiccup that was complicating matters. Swami would have none of it, and eventually the doctors left with their tubes and bottles. On 10th December at 5 p.m, Swami was led into the bathroom. 20 minutes later, he came out clean-shaven, wearing a new robe and looking fresh as a newly blossomed rose. When the doctors examined him again, the whole area of the appendix was as normal as it could be. Bhagavan Baba then waved his palm, even as he announced that he was Dattatreya. And lo, there was in his hand the picture of the three-headed God, the Trinity. Wonder of wonders, the picture Swami had created showed the same head thrice, Swami himself as Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. The promised public meeting in the city was arranged a couple of days later, and a huge crowd turned up to have the darshan of the one who took on the illness of a devotee in order to save him. From Goa, Swami flew to Bombay, where, addressing a mammoth gathering, Bhagavan said, "The other day a serious illness came upon this body in Goa. Many who are devoted to me were plunged into anxiety and despair when they learnt of it. Illness can never affect this body. It cannot even approach it. If it comes sometimes, believe this. It belongs to someone else, not myself. And it goes away just as it came on account of my free will. I have no contact with it. I am not affected by it." Every day brought its own bewildering mixture of the incredibly divine in juxtaposition with apparently normal human behavior. One spectacular demonstration of this divine power came in late December 1971, when Swami resurrected Walter Cowan of America from the dead. Cowan was quite ill when he came with his wife Elsie Cowan to India to have Swami's darshan. Swami was in Madras at that time. There, in the early hours of Christmas, Walter Cowan became very sick and was removed from the hotel to a hospital. The hospital doctor examined Cowan and found that he had already passed away. As they say, Cowan was dead on arrival. Early next morning, unknown to his entourage, Swami drove to the hospital, quietly went inside unnoticed to the place where Cowan's body lay, and brought Walter Cowan back to life. No one else was present. Later, when the doctor came into the room where Cowan's body was, he was shocked to see the man he had declared dead alive and sitting. In 1972, Swami celebrated in Brindavan the remarriage of Elsie Cowan and Walter Cowan, now aged 84, and come back from the dead. devotees imagine God in human form is human at times and divine at others. Nothing could be further from the truth. The fact of the matter is that the avatar is always divine, even if most of his actions appear human as they must. The avatar might not give direct evidence of his divinity most of the time, but divine he always is. It is our misfortune if through ignorance we fail to see that constant radiance and effulgence of divine love. God has no need to assume a form, much less a human one. Yet, out of his infinite love for man, he incarnates occasionally, mainly to uplift man. The advent of God is essentially for helping man to rise from the human level to the level of the divine. This was the case in all the earlier incarnations, and the same is true now also when Lord God has come down in human form and is currently moving in our midst as the Sri Sathya Sai avatar.